You're very welcome to Silverstone for round 9 of the GP2 series, the sprint race. Over 23 laps of the British Grand Prix venue, and following yesterday's fantastic feature race win for Andy Zuber of the iSport team, we're getting ready for some more terrific action from the GP2 stars again this morning. Well, Zuber will start 8th thanks to the reverse grid format in operation for this morning's race, with yesterday's 8th place finisher Roldan Rodriguez of Spain given the honour and the considerable advantage of leading the field away from pole position. And after all the rain in England lately, it's a beautiful, fresh summer's morning here in Northamptonshire. I'm joined once again by David Kennedy and by Gary Anderson. And David, well, after yesterday's action, it's certainly all set to be a very interesting sprint race. We saw an absolutely thrilling sprint race here 1 year ago, won in imperious fashion by Lewis Hamilton. And the question is, can Andy Zuber do something similar from 8th place on the grid?
Yeah, it was a tremendous race last year. If you ever needed anything to let you know that Lewis Hamilton was a star in the making, if not already a star, was his blinding performance in that race as he just cut through the opposition like a knife through butter. It was mightily impressive, and I remember in particular one amazing manoeuvre that he took into the Maggots Beckett's Chapel complex, and you really had to hold your breath and just hope there wasn't going to be a mother and father of a shunt. But he came out the other end and brought it home to a tremendous victory and to a great plaudits from the crowd. But what we've got here is a tremendous now build-up for the championship. At one stage it looked as if Timo Glock was going to run away with this, and he's had a terrible run the last couple of races, and no finishes, no points in the bag, all beginning with that terrible start last week in Magny-Cours when his teammate parked his car on top of his head. Not a very comfortable position, and now we find him being chased down by Filippi and Luca Di Grassi, only a couple of points behind him.
A great battle for the championship. I can tell you Timo Glock will be starting 21st on the grid after all sorts of mechanical gremlins yesterday, and his lead in the championship now just 4 points. And Gary Anderson, it's very nicely poised in the championship, isn't it? What can Timo Glock do from 21st on the grid?
Well, I think actually, you know, obviously he's going to try as hard as possible to get a few points out of it. It's going to be very, very tough, but actually he's lucky to be there at all, because there's a bit of a saga of events that's taken place. Nicolas Lapierre crashed yesterday and damaged the chassis, but GP2 carry the spare chassis, and because they lost, Ernest Aveza lost one in Magny-Cours, they also lost one at the test at Paul Ricard. There basically is no spare chassis, so Lapierre is not on the grid, which was very lucky for Glock, because they also had no spare engines, and Glock had an engine problem yesterday, so they tried to get one engine over from Switzerland to here for his car, but it was stuck in Dover at the customs at 7 o'clock this morning, so that didn't happen. So they were able to take Lapierre's engine and put it in Glock's car. So
well, it was very generous of the Dams team to donate their engine to a championship rival.
Well, the thing is, GP2 control that. They do end up they own the engines and they own the cars. To be honest, yes, the teams have paid to use the cars, but GP2 still own them. So I think they can create a bit of whatever you like to call it there, and move things around a bit. But you know, it does show how close to the wind they're all sailing, and we're back into a run of events now. Like they had their break while we went off to North America. The GP2 teams weren't competing, but now we're back into a run of events and races. So a couple of losses here, chassis or engines, and they could really be struggling to keep it all together.
Lucas Di Grassi at the wheel of his ART machine, and he's very shortly going to be setting off from 5th position on the grid. Time to speak a little bit about the pole sitter. The Dave Price Racing team are occupying the back row of the grid. They've had a terrible run this season. Christian Backerud and Andy Suchek, all sorts of problems, and they'll start last and second last. But up front, Roldan Rodriguez, well, he's a rookie in GP2, but he's doing quite well this season, David.
Yeah, he's a good pedigree in junior formula. He finished second in the Spanish F3000 F3 Championship and 6th in the Euro Series in F3000. So, you know, he knows his way around. He's used to the F3, used to 3000 cars, not very similar to the GP2 cars. So he's a man that can do it, but alongside him is one of the few race winners we've had. We've had 8 events this year. We've had 8 different winners, so quite an extraordinary situation, and giving you an idea how competitive this category is. But Maldonado won in incredible style in Monaco, and he's a man to watch here. Adam Carl, 3rd quickest. He's one of the few drivers that got into the 31s. In fact, there were only 4 drivers in the 31s, 1 minute 31, and only one driver in the 30 zeros, and that's Timo Glock. But he has got a hell of a job back in 21st place, and I really hope the camera picks up on him, because he's got everything to gain and nothing to lose. He needs to put some points in the bag, and here we see it with the championship positions.
Kerry, just talking a little bit about Adam Carroll starting from third position is a great opportunity. It was a good result yesterday, best result of the season for Fisichella Motorsports, and entirely justifying their decision to drop Antonio Fazzoni and bring Adam Carroll in. But what can he do from third? It's a good chance.
Well, obviously, you know, yesterday a little bit of an indiscretion with pit limiter robbed the third position there, but that's a benefit, robbed them of a third position yesterday, so it's a little bit of a benefit for today. But you know, he's really got to push. Interestingly, Rodriguez, basically on the adjustments on these cars, you can adjust the rear downforce, and they've got an adjustable rear gurney flap, which the difference in height is about 20 millimeters. And Rodriguez is the only guy running the low downforce setup, so he can't use the downforce. Whenever the team give him more downforce for the fast sections, he hasn't got the experience or the will to use that to go quicker through the corners. So they've gone for a low downforce set. So it's going to be tough to pass down Hanger straight for somebody like Adam, because Adam's using the higher downforce set and he's quicker through the corner. But it's going to be very interesting to see those two, which of them comes out the top because of that. I mean, Adam's setup should save the tyres a little bit longer. Rodriguez probably uses up the tyres a little bit earlier. So I think Adam's got to stay cool, knowing that it may come to him later on in the race, and not get too aggressive and end up making a mistake and hitting somebody and getting punted off the road.
And David, looking at Luca Filippi and Lucas Di Grassi in 4th and 5th positions, they're making big inroads now into Timo Glock's championship lead, so this represents an opportunity for them. Will they be desperate to get past on the first lap, or will they be taking it easy and just waiting to see does the race come to them?
Well, they've got those points by stealth as much as anything else, and certainly strategy, and obviously not insubstantial pace. But now there's 4 points between Filippi and Glock, and there's 5 points between Di Grassi and Glock. So they're the two that are right on his tail. And we mustn't forget Bruno Senna, who's in 4th place in the championship. He's on 24 points, so he's got a little bit of a job to do. But at the moment, I think for Adam Carroll, as he's only just come into the series, nothing else is on his radar except the win here. And as Gary was pointing out, if Rodriguez is running low downforce, he's going to be exceptionally difficult to overtake. But one of the quickest cars that we had in the race yesterday was Adam Carroll at 31.8. We had Nakajima at 31.7. Conway, who was blindingly quick and finished second at 31.3, and then Zuber, who won the race at 31.0. The rest are in the 32s. So Adam, from his position in 3rd place, is the quickest car in that zone. So there's every opportunity that he is a real candidate to win this race. But my eyes are on Glock back in 21st place.
Quick word about Mike Conway, starting in 7th position after a fantastic 2nd place result in yesterday's feature race. Local hero from Bromley in Kent, British Formula 3 champion, and a man finally delivering on the promise that he's shown in the lower formula. And now ready to take the start of this sprint race this morning. But up front, it's Roldan Rodriguez as the medical car takes its position at the back of the grid, and Charlie Whiting can begin the starting line sequence very soon, and he does, and the red light sequence is underway. And the sprint race is underway in Silverstone in a cloud, and Luca Filippi, who's dropped back a little bit.
Yeah, a tremendous start by Maldonado. Rodriguez just spun the rear tyres a little bit too much. It's incredible, the two cars, Conway battling away there as the Red Bull cars neck and neck through Club Corner, but he spun the wheels, Rodriguez bogged the car down, and a tremendous start from Maldonado, and Carroll up into 2nd place.
Great start by Adrian Zaug. He's managed to get ahead of his teammate Bruno Senna, who's looking to try and respond. Meanwhile, Mike Conway is trying to find a way past his teammate Luca Filippi. So Filippi is closing up in the points of Timo Glock. He's dropped back a little bit there, but it's Maldonado that is leading the field in the early running in this GP2 feature race. Over 24 laps. We're in the first lap of 24 laps of this Northamptonshire venue, and we're in car with Mike Conway looking left and right and on the tail of his teammate.
Out onto Woodcote, flat out section course here as they blast by the start and finish. Maldonado, Carroll, Di Grassi, Rodriguez, Nakajima in 5th place, Filippi 6th, Conway in 7th, Zuber holding his 8th place where he qualified.
Pastor Maldonado leads the field in the early running of this GP2 sprint race. 0.4 of a second his advantage over Adam Carroll across the start-finish line at the completion of the first lap. We're concentrating on the battle here between Luca Filippi and Mike Conway for 6th and 7th positions. They pay points down to 6th in the sprint race on Sunday morning. So Luca Filippi in the final point scoring position at the moment. I can tell you Andy Zuber, yesterday's race winner, is holding steady in 8th. Petrov holding steady in 9th. Ammermuller, Chantok, Zaug is up in 12th, and Senna was the big loser, down in 13th position. But a great first lap by Adam Carroll, Gary.
Yeah, very good start. Again, Rodriguez a bit of experience there in the start. He got himself bogged down a little bit. So Adam took advantage of that and braved it out around his first couple of corners. You know, it's about confidence that does that. You know, confidence to go into Beckett's and keep the throttle down is quite different. Adam's been around here a lot. He's driven these cars a lot.
And Carroll wheel to wheel, one inside, one outside, and then as they drove down into Beckett's, and here we're on board. Just look at the car bogging down. He's left or he's right. Rodriguez trying to block, but he couldn't do anything about it. Degrassi on the inside, and they leave Rodriguez in between them there. And just to your left there, you'll see Carroll on the outside. And that's Carroll's car, and they stay wheel to wheel, 150, 160, 170, 175 miles an hour. Incredible stuff. Degrassi backs out of it. Carroll has the outside line and pulls it off into that complex of corners. Incredibly brave. A wonderful choice by Carroll to keep the hammer in there, and now in second place behind Maldonado.
Sakon Yamamoto has been on pit lane in his Barcelona competition machine, the former Super Aguri Grand Prix far, and yet to really deliver on the promise that he showed in Japanese racing in Formula Nippon before he made his debut for Super Aguri last season. Pastor Maldonado continues to lead. Meanwhile, Mike Conway fighting hard at the wheel of this Supernova machine to try and stay with his teammate.
Yeah, and of course the car up ahead of him is Filippi. Of course he doesn't want to lose a place because Filippi has got Degrassi up in 3rd place. Remember Filippi is 2nd in the championship, Degrassi is 3rd. There is championship, a very important championship here at stake, and Conway now really wants to win, not so interested in championship positions because he's so far out of it in terms of a position in championship. So basically he wants to get himself up onto the podium, as do most of them obviously.
Fastest man on track after 2 laps, Pastor Maldonado, but I can tell you Timo Glock is on a charge. 21st he started on the grid. He's already up to 16th and turning fast intermediate sector times. He's the next man in his sights is Felipe Albuquerque, making his debut in GP2 racing this weekend. And he's the replacement for Ernesto Vizo, who suffered that terrible accident in Manicourt. He's expected back to racing in a couple of weeks' time. In the meantime, Felipe Albuquerque is at the wheel of his car and doing his best to hold off Timo Glock, but not for long because Glock's by already.
Yeah, and of course Glock now has got a problem because he's got Pantano, a very successful driver in GP2, F3000 and F1, so he's probably the least likely driver. He wants to see.
And though was Adam Carroll, 0.7 of a second between himself and Maldonado across the start-finish line.
I think Glock probably is running a pretty low aerodynamic downforce. He knows the way to get by them is not in the corners, just to be able to, with a group of cars up ahead, they're going to make a big hole in the air. If he's running light aerodynamics, should be able to shoot past them down the hanger straight, which we saw him do at Pantano, and basically muscle it and Fred Flintstone it around the infield section. And when you get this bottleneck of cars, one will be slowing up the other. So really, in terms of out-and-out grip, he doesn't need it. Look at Pantano on the back of his gearbox already, but know that when they get out onto the straight, you'll see Glock being able to tow by the next car up ahead of him, which is going to be Bruno Senna.
Yeah, he's caught up to Bruno Senna. The man is 4th in the championship. He's caught up to both of the Red Bull Arden cars. Senna's scrapping with his teammate Adrian Zaug, and it'll be interesting to see just how long it takes him to get past Senna, who's one of the more impressive rookies in the championship, albeit fully 15 points behind Timo Glock in the championship at the moment.
You know, we've had, as I said, 8 races and 8 different winners. If Maldonado goes through and wins this, he'll be the first double winner in GP2 in 2007. So it really needs Adam Carroll to take this to keep symmetry in the race winners that we've got this year.
It certainly would be a surprise, bearing in mind the impressive performance of Timo Glock. Runs a little bit wide there, just dropped a little bit off the tail of his teammate Adrian Zaug. And what can Glock do? No, he has to just tuck him behind for a little bit longer. Sakon Yamamoto out of the race.
Now, big disappointment for him. We saw him drive through the pits. We're not really quite sure what the problem was there, but Senna is proving a formidable competitor here, not giving any space.
It's now back to within a couple of tenths of Pastor Maldonado. Quicker that last lap by 4/10 of a second, and clearly on a charge, so it's going to be a big battle for the lead. There's certainly a very Bruno Senna for too long, because if he's to make a genuine bid for a points finish in this morning's race, well, he's going to have to make his way up the order as quickly as possible.
That gap at the front is still under a second. Carroll still tracking down Maldonado. De Grassi dropping away a little bit, 2 seconds behind Carl. Rodriguez really a little bit on a race on his own, and he's holding up Nakajima, who's glued to the back of his gearbox. It's just a few tenths behind. Philippi is further frustrated with that. Then you've got Conway and Zuber battling away there. Not
a decent getaway at all, but he is hanging on in 4th place, and he's got Kazuki Nakajima, who scored his first podium, his first points finishes in GP2 racing. In yesterday's feature race, the Toyota test driver running with the Williams squad this year and enjoying his race experience with the Dams team, and gave them a good result yesterday. As Gary was saying, his teammate Nicolas Lapierre had to head home to France early because they couldn't get a car fixed in time for him to get out.
This is Nakajima's opportunity here. He's throwing the car around a little bit, and he's obviously getting a little bit frustrated. Nakajima, one of the fastest men in GP2. Invariably, we've seen him often get tangled up in a race somewhere along the line. Not such a good racer. Mind you, having said that, he finished 3rd in the main race yesterday, which is an outstanding run. Here we're seeing a slow-mo replay. This is Bruno Senna on the left-hand side, and Glock has just chopped his nose off, and has he been able to hold it?
Well, that engine of Nicolas Lapierre's is not doing him any, it's certainly not holding him back, because that was a very incisive overtaking manoeuvre that one would presume was actually created at the previous corner.
Yeah, I think obviously Senna must have run wide in that complex, Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel, for him to be able to, for Glock to be able to tow up behind. But I was just saying about Nakajima, invariably one of the top drivers in terms of pace in a race, but a little bit inconsistent, and if he can get that consistency honed, we could have a major Japanese competitor here. And of course, what a tremendous background.
Well, look at this, and Glock puts another Red Bull Ardent car behind him, because he just pulls out and passes Adrian Zaug with incredible ease. He's practically indicated and just cruised away.
We've never seen anything like that before. Normally it takes, oh look at that, just get it off on the dirt. Was that Bruno Senna that nearly lost it? I think it was.
Yeah, and Senna loses a spot too. He can follow Glock through the pack. Pastor Maldonado leads up front. He managed to expand his advantage a little bit last lap round on Adam Carroll, just by a 10th of a second. Meanwhile, on a charge is Lucas de Grassi, because very impressive intermediate split times from the man from Sao Paulo. Oh, big spin for Glock as he's tagged by one of the Red Bull cars. He goes through 360s twice, and Adrian Zaug takes to the grass in avoidance, which is probably the least that he could have done, because it was actually him, I think, that tagged Glock. And Zaug manages to rejoin from the national circuit and drops back in. But this is not a great weekend, it has to be said, for Timo Glock. Is stranded in the middle of the track, and the championship leader is out of points contention once more.
Well, he had nothing to lose. He really had to go for it. He was so far down the field. You know, there's 17 laps left remaining, and the chances are he would have to continue at that pace to get up into the likes of Conway and Philippi to get a few meaningful points. So caution to the wind, and tremendous run. And you got to take your hat off to him. He really did dig deep, and look at the way he was flying there. He couldn't afford to hang on. Here we see it coming into this very quick complex bridge, and he was tapped from behind. It wasn't his fault. That was really unfortunate that should happen. Zaug should it looked like Zaug giving him a tip in the Arden car, and it's here we see it here, just braking, tapped. Yeah, we can't see up ahead what had happened, but that's just through bridge. They're going to their 150, 160. Here we see it. Glock taken to the inside there, and Zaug obviously a little bit maybe fed up that Glock had got by. I hope there was no over-aggression. Yeah, over-aggression in that. But the
frustration is writ large on Timo Glock, and really that marshal needs to stand away for a couple of moments, because there's a man with an awful lot of adrenaline pumping through his veins at the moment. As we see working his way up through the field as best he can, Andy Soucek. Well, he's being a bit slow about it, because he's running in 23rd position at the moment. But that was a little bit cheeky there from Adrian Zaug. Or was he caught by surprise, Gary, do you think?
Well, I think he was caught by surprise, because Glock was going for the sort of inside line, a little bit of protection, so he probably lifted a little bit early, and you know, again, Zug was trying to do the quick line and have a go at him at the next corner. So I think it was more or less tripped up, to be honest. But, you know, again, as David says, Glock had nothing to lose. He had to go for everything. And he was doing a very good job there. Whether he got to 6 was obviously tough. You're coming up to competitors that are actually quite quick. So, you know, it gets tougher and tougher. But I have to say the engine looked pretty powerful on the performance down the straight there, because looking at his car on the grid, he was carrying a downforce that, you know, that's normal for these things, not a low downforce setting like Rodriguez.
Yes, he certainly wasn't. He'd no penalty there, having had to take the engine of another competitor. Meanwhile, Mike Conway running in 7th position, still just out of the points and still running just behind his teammate. As we see, oh, look at that, incredibly close between Kazuki Nakajima and Roldan Rodriguez. Rodriguez takes to the grass and Nakajima moves on, but that was a little bit cheeky there by Kazuki Nakajima, perhaps putting his nose in where it really wasn't wanted.
Well, he got out of it okay, got out of it intact as Rodriguez gathers himself up. Lucky that he's got a car under his backside, because that was a pretty hairy moment. And now that loosens up Nakajima. Will he be able to do anything with De Grassi up the road? Because now Nakajima was being pressured by Philippi and Conway. So it really loosens those three up, and maybe they can pull up to De Grassi at the moment. De Grassi more than delighted with his 3rd place, more points in the bag that will be able to see him usurp 2nd place in the championship and move closer. Here we see it. Rodriguez locks up. I don't think he touched him there. Nakajima understeering as he just manages to get around the corner. Rodriguez not been able to do anything with it, doing the best thing possible, get off the brakes and try and keep the car straight and pick up the road when you get around this tight Abbey corner.
Well, from that replay, no indication of any blame to be attached to Kazuki Nakajima. I'm not really sure whether we're going to get another view of it, but Roldan Rodriguez heads through the gravel trap and will resume a little bit further down the field.
Did that gravel trap do anything at all except spread gravel everywhere? It's there's such a waste of time. A little bit of tarmac at him there, and be able to straighten the car and slow it up there. Just
well, the high-speed tarmac on the exit of Copse Corner here is a perfect example of what a runoff should be.
Exactly.
In Monaco, so he's able to keep his concentration and focus, because Monaco is one of the places you need that. So he's going to be a tough customer by the end of it. But, you know, even if Adam finishes 2nd, he'll have done a good job this weekend. Yeah,
it certainly has been a pretty a decent improvement in competitiveness for the Fisichella Motorsports squad. 10 laps in, 14 laps remaining in this GP2 sprint race, and Adam Carroll is just over half a second behind Pastor Maldonado, the race leader. Lucas De Grassi running in 3rd place, and Kazuki Nakajima on a charge now, running in 4th position ahead of Luca Filippi and Mike Conway, now up into the points in his Supernova car. Join us for the conclusion of this sprint race after this short break. here in Silverstone, and a great scrap developing between Pastor Maldonado and Adam Carroll for the lead. Maldonado has led throughout, but coming under increasing pressure now from Adam Carroll, who certainly likes Silverstone, on pole position for the feature race last year, and he finished with a podium finish on that occasion behind Lewis Hamilton. But he'd like to at least go a little bit better and mount the top step in Northamptonshire this morning if he can find a way past Pastor Maldonado. Well, Maldonado knows how to soak up pressure. It was a very impressive performance from him in Monaco a couple of weekends ago, a couple of race weekends ago, and Pastor Maldonado has taken it seemed like an unlikely victory at the time, but he's shown that he has decent pace. Another man with pretty good pace, Kazuki Nakajima, running in 4th place. He's been putting in fastest laps since he managed to find a way past Roldan Rodriguez, and he's now right up onto the tail of Lucas Di Grassi and battling for that remaining podium position.
Yeah, how long is it going to be before Nakajima has a win? That's again setting fastest laps. He's the only cars in the 30 zeros. 30.8 last lap was a 30.6, and the best we've seen currently from other cars are Maldonado 31.4, Adam Carroll 31.7, Di Grassi 31.7. In fact, and Filippi as well is on a bit of a fly, 31.2, chasing, trying to stay with Nakajima as Nakajima pulled himself now to within 1 second of Di Grassi. But Adam Carroll absolutely flying in this race.
Now, great overtaking effort there by Giorgio Pantano, finding a way past our pole sitter from this race, Roldan Rodriguez, who's going backwards and probably just wants to be out of here at this point. Rodriguez drops back to 10th position. Pantano up into the top 10, or up into 9th position from 22nd on the grid. Pretty good effort.
Yeah, and it just started coming back to Carl. Carl has had some great results, as you were saying, Declan, earlier. 3rd and a 2nd. Of course, yesterday he finished 6th, and that was despite a drive-through, which was a major disappointment for him to be pushed down the field when he was in a chance for a podium. But now he can redress that 2nd and 3rd that he's had around here and add a 1st to it. At the moment, he's under a half a second back to Maldonado.
Mike Conway on a charge. He's setting very quick intermediate split times, and he's running right with his teammate Luca Filippi in 6th position at the moment, and it'll be interesting to see whether they can draw around. Well, they were around about the same times as Di Grassi and Nakajima, but I think as Di Grassi is caught by Nakajima, Nakajima's pushing to find a way past, well, their lap times will drop a little bit, and they'll drop back into the clutches of Filippi and Conway, the two Supernova men.
Well, it'll be a great weekend for Nakajima if he can manage to get by Di Grassi. That'll be a double podium finish in the 2 races this weekend, in front of the Grand Prix crowd, in front of his Formula 1 bomb. A tremendous pedigree with his father, Satoru Nakajima, ex-F1 driver, so he's certainly got the DNA in his blood, and he's got the right. And here we see the battle boiling over.
And this is Bruno Senna moving past Michael Ammermuller for 11th position. Ammermuller really not having the season that people have expected from him. The Red Bull supported driver racing with the champion squad ART, and hasn't made the sort of impression that we expected after taking a joined Nakajima, of course, 2nd in Japanese F3 a couple of seasons ago, and very well thought of. Big support from Toyota to try and propel him into a Grand Prix seat and give Japan another worthy Grand Prix contender to match Takuma Sato of Honda. And Nakajima well thought of in his role as test driver with the Williams squad this year.
Yeah, looking at the times yesterday to give an idea who's hot and who's not, Adam was certainly an awful lot quicker than Maldonado in the race, and as we see the battle heat up here, it was a case of 4 or 5 tenths of a second a lap quicker Adam Carroll was than Maldonado in the race yesterday.
Gary Nakajima has certainly been spectacular this year. He's able to turn a quick lap time, but he tends to get involved in a lot of incidents and accidents, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a bit like a magnet, isn't he? If there's something going on, he's usually involved in it. We're probably going to see that before the end of this one as well. He's being a bit tacky here, and obviously Di Grassi's striving for that podium position, so being reasonably defensive. But you know, again, it's the same old deal experience. He's just settling down. A good result probably will do him good if he can get a couple of podium positions out of this race. You know, the next race it'll be better again, because he has the lap. He can put the lap time in for sure. It's just keep it all together for whenever you're dicing with.
Incredible overtaking manoeuvre, simply outstanding. Reminds me last year of Lewis Hamilton's overtaking manoeuvre.
It certainly was, and Adam Carroll, I think we have to say a word for him too, because that was a pretty unusual manner that he found a way past into the lead. As we get a replay of it, Gary.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he just got him flustered. I think come in, you know, with Maldonado, and just got him flustered. Just Yeah, you go. Just
Must have missed a gear, although how do you miss a gear in one of these?
Well, you can't actually, to be honest. You know, either goes in gear or it blows the gearbox up, so it's pretty tough. But I think he just got him flustered, got him to trying to be protective. You get on the throttle, the rear spits out a little bit, you know, that's it, you're gone, finished. And Adam did a really good job there. He just flustered him into a mistake. And just at the right time of the race as well, where the tyres are starting to feel a little bit dodgy, and you haven't got used to them yet. They're starting to go away on you, but you just haven't had enough time on them to actually do the best job possible.
Well, Mike Conway is another man with a lot to prove at the moment, and he's moved up onto the gearbox of Lucas di Grassi, challenging for fourth position. Nakajima's up the road by just over 2 seconds, so he looks secure in the third position, and indeed he'll very soon be challenging Pastor Maldonado for second place. Adam Carroll, meanwhile, at 1.7 seconds clear across the start-finish line last lap round, with 6 laps remaining towards what will be, well, a famous victory. He'd be a very popular man with Fisichella Motorsports.
Oh, incredibly. And look at the Grassi. The Grassi just can't keep his car straight. It's sliding at the back all the time, and really, if Conway has a good run at him out of this corner, the Grassi not able to put the power down, but no, Mike Conway had a little bit of opposite lock there, so loses the momentum down the pit straight, but the Grassi just can't keep the car straight. And look at the log jam behind him, Conway, Philippi and Zuber.
Yeah, Zuber's managed to get on terms here, so he's challenging for a point. He's just behind Philippi, and Philippi's in all sorts of difficulties. And having said that, he's still running with Mike Conway, because Conway, of course, been held up by di Grassi. So we've got a 4-way battle from 4th to 8th, and Zuber's on terms, and that's going to make things very interesting.
Conway can have a run here. We just saw the Grassi a little bit slow out there, but a bit far back. But to this next complex of the corners, you've got to lean on the left rear tyre a lot as you come into Stowe, and the Grassi struggles there. If Conway can get under his wing a little bit, it's the long leaning corners that you lean on that left rear that the car just seems to slide away on him.
Zuber in his iSport machine, now on the tail of Luca Filippi. And Zuber attempting to garner at least one more point in his championship challenge. I think it's beyond him really to get into a decent championship run. 19 points against 39 for Timo Glock means that Andy Zuber's not going to win the title this year, but he certainly would like to rubber stamp his authority over Glock in this weekend's events, and especially coming on the heels of their interesting start to the feature race in Manicure a week ago, where the two of them clashed within about 30 yards of the start. I think it would be something that Andy Zuber would like to do to score lots of points more than Timo Glock this weekend.
Indeed, look at the log jam that we've got that the Grassi is creating Conway, and now look at Philippi right on the back of Conway, and then Zuber behind him. Meanwhile, Nakajima sets another fastest lap of the race, a 1:30.67.
Oh, look at that big spin by Luca Filippi. He's out of contention, he's dropped out of it, and well, that's been coming. He's been struggling with the tyres, and he just got a little bit wide and got on the gas a bit too early, and he's well, that's it, removed him from contention, and that's done Andy Zuber a favour, because he's now up into a point-scoring position in 6th place.
And now, at least for Conway, he can just concentrate on the car ahead. He doesn't have to be looking in his mirror.
Yeah, it's going to take him a little bit of time. He's going to have a think about it as we get a replay of this. Well, relatively harmless as it appeared.
Yeah, just runs a little bit wide, put a wheel on the grass there, the synthetic surface, and spins away, manages to gather it up again. Of course, there's a lot of dirty air there as well, and if you get anyway the car out of balance, here he just touches it on that no grip surface, and surprised he didn't get enough luck on. He could have looked as if he could have saved that, but you're going through there at some incredible pace, and if the car gets its own momentum, it's very difficult to pull it back.
Yeah, he ends up on the pit lane exit and just cruises back onto the circuit, but out of contention now. And now Andy Zuber, I should say, in his iSport machine will move up onto the tail of Mike Conway, and it'll be interesting to see whether Conway has the pace and ability to defend Zuber, while at the same time attempting to find a way past Lucas di Grassi. Nakajima, fastest lap again last lap round, so he's just turning in fastest lap after fastest lap, and he's moving up onto the tail of Pastor Maldonado. Very shortly he'll be challenging for second position, and well, he really is the class of the field at the moment with 3 laps remaining. I don't think even if he got past Maldonado, I don't think he could get to Adam Carroll. Adam Carroll 2.4 seconds across the start-finish line last lap round, so seemingly cruising towards his first victory of 2007.
You know, Nakajima is lapping virtually a second quicker than anyone else. We're looking on 3 laps left remaining. He's 1.4 seconds behind Maldonado, and he's 3.9 seconds behind Carroll. It's one thing to be able to catch Maldonado and to get by him, but there you see the gap. Adam Carroll, and then you got Maldonado, and under a second now you've got Maldonado back to Nakajima in third place, and I'm sure Nakajima isn't going to settle for just another podium position. He finished third yesterday. I'm sure he'd like to improve that to second, and thereby giving him probably the best results overall over the weekend. Mind you, Adam Carroll is going to be absolutely thrilled out of his shoes.
Certainly was. Nakajima now right with Pastor Maldonado. As we see a little bit further back, it's Christian Baccarat, is it? Adrian Zaug, of course, making his comeback, and he takes to the runoff area at Copse Corner as he scraps with that Dave Price racing machine. Zaug, of course, had run off track earlier in his scrap with Timo Glock, and he was run all the way down to the pit lane.
Whoa,
to the pit
incredibly tight stuff there. You're looking at 150, 160 miles an hour. This is very dangerous, incredibly brave stuff to be able to push and chase like that. Meanwhile, you've got Nakajima under a second now to Maldonado. Maldonado 2 seconds away from Adam Carroll. Two laps left remaining.
Gary, Adam Carroll, it really is impressive, bearing in mind that he's had no testing worth the mention, and he didn't get a whole lot of running last week in Manicourt either.
No, he didn't get much running there, so yeah, it is very impressive. I mean, he's come on a lot. Last year, obviously, with the racing engineering car, there was a bit of a struggle going on there, and I think, you know, there's a lot of people hanging around him, and you know, lost the focus a little bit. Now he's back, he's a one-man band coming back to go racing because he needs to pick his career up again, and this is exactly what he needed to do that. So he's coming back and taking on the challenge and jumping up for it and doing the job. That's the best thing you can ever do.
Well, I hope the Formula 1 team managers are watching. I'm pretty sure they are, because there's plenty of entertainment in this GP2 race. And look at this, Kazuki Nakajima right with Maldonado, and Maldonado having given up the lead. Very often the dam bursts and well, just car after car overtakes you, because you just give up that I don't know what it is, but suddenly once you lose one, you lose several. Now he's got Nakajima for company, and he won't be relishing this.
No, Nakajima absolutely on fire, pushing, chasing, hassling and harrying. Maldonado has put up a good defence, but I think this is where it all ends.
Well, Nakajima right tucked in under the gear
line, and Maldonado keeping it fairly tight again. He struggles here a little bit, Maldonado. This is his probably Achilles heel, the club corner. Nakajima right on his gearbox. Is he going to try the inside? No, can't quite do it. Maldonado, the victor in Monte Carlo, so knows a thing or two about being focused and keeping the car tidy, but he's still under the most intense pressure for Nakajima. Meanwhile, Carroll heads on to victory.
Yeah, he was third last year in Silverstone. He was second last year in Silverstone. Now, finally, he reaches the top step as he moves through the final corner and heads across the start-finish line. He goes over to take the plaudits of his Fisichella Motorsport squad, because Adam Carroll has taken victory in the GP2 sprint race. Pastor Maldonado hangs on for a tremendous second place ahead of Kazuki Nakajima, and it's been an enthralling GP2 sprint race, won in imperious fashion by Adam Carroll. A great victory for the Northern Irish driver. Lucas de Grassi also equally hangs on by the skin of his teeth from Mike Conway, and Andy Zuber secures the final point. Just out of the points, Luca Filippi will be very disappointed, and Giorgio Pantano, surely he deserved more after a great drive up to 8th place from so far down on the grid. 9th position for Vitaly Petrov. Bruno Senna 10th after a busy race. Rodriguez, the pole sitter, slips back to 11th, but it's all about Adam Carroll in Silverstone.
And of course, de Grassi too increases his points, moves closer to Timo Glock. De Grassi, I think, picks up the 3 points, making it 37, 2 points behind the leader, Timo Glock, who's had that really unfortunate last four non-finishes. So Glock, it's all slipping away from him. Adam Carroll on a charge, making a name for himself once again. Nakajima establishing the fact that he's one of the quickest drivers out there. So as Adam Carroll locks up the brakes, absolutely delighted with himself to put this victory in the bag. 9 races, 9 different winners.
Well, he was a victor on 3 occasions in 2005 at Imola, at the Blue Ribbon event in Monaco, and indeed at Spa, the most challenging racetrack of them all. And Adam Carroll continues to display his his great natural ability at the wheel of a racing car. And a mature win, I think, as well, it's worth saying, Gary.
Yeah, very mature. That's the impressive thing. You know, it was no over-driving or no big risk taking. It was just straight in, bang, done it. And really, you know, that's all you can ask of the guy, isn't it? He is a professional, he is, and he can drive a racing car, which is very good. As I say, sometimes things get a little bit overpowered, and I think he can resurrect his career from here. And all the best to him, really.
Yeah, let's hope that Adam Carroll does get another opportunity with the Formula One teams, and great to see him back in a single-seater. He certainly is worthy of his place, to say the least, and he demonstrated in a fantastic fashion this morning, taking the victory in the GP2 sprint race from Pastor Maldonado, with Kazuki Nakajima rounding out the podium finishers. Lucas de Grassi in 4th, Mike Conway a fine 5th after being on the podium in yesterday's feature race. Zuber in 6th place takes the final point, and that's where we have to leave the GP2 series for this weekend. It just remains for me to thank David Kennedy and Gary Anderson, and remind you that we'll be bringing you the next round of the GP2 series from the Nürburgring in 2 weeks' time. And please join us for our coverage of the British Grand Prix, which gets underway at 12:15 p.m. Until then, from all of us here, it's goodbye.
Punktet, aber es ist nicht so, dass er regelmäßig Rennen gewinnt, und er glaubt, sobald das Pech bei Timo Glock wieder weg ist, dann wird der auch wieder gewinnen und, so hat er gesagt, die Grassi wieder davonfahren. Und damit geht es nochmal hoch zu unseren Kommentatoren, zu Sascha und Sven.
Do you want something?
And just waiting for the wave. The actual way scales are in behind the podium here, so they'll get weighed before we see them out in front of everybody. And I'm just trying to sort out his crash up into the most. Looks like a problem with it. He's going to get that sorted out fairly quickly, and we'll be seeing him in just a second or two. He's been racing in DTM, of course, this year, racing for Audi, but what a comeback it has been to GP2 in just a couple of meetings to take a race win, and to do it here at Silverstone, that really is quite remarkable. All the guys just trying to pull down a little bit, get a little bit of water. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our podium finishers from the second GP2 race of the weekend. In 3rd place, Kazuki Nakajima. In 2nd, Pastor Maldonado. And the race